All right, let's talk about the future of healthcare. Today, we're going to go way beyond the buzzwords and actually build a practical blueprint for what is seriously one of the most exciting frontiers out there. We're going to break down, step by step, exactly how you would build a digital therapeutics platform for 2026. So, first things first, we need to be crystal clear on what we're talking about. Digital therapeutics, or DTX for short, this is so much more than just a fitness tracker or a wellness app. The key phrase here, and it's everything, is clinically validated interventions. Think about that. This is literally software as medicine. And this really draws the line in the sand. On one side, you've got DTX. These are clinically proven, they're often prescribed by a doctor, and they're regulated just like a medical device. On the other side, you've got your standard wellness apps. You know, the ones for general health, available to anyone, and they're pretty much unregulated. Understanding this difference is absolutely fundamental to everything we're about to cover. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. We've just covered the what. Now, we're going to dive into the 5 essential building blocks that take you from that initial idea all the way through to launch and beyond. All right, let's get into it. First up, laying the clinical foundation. And look, this isn't just step 1, this is the bedrock. Seriously, every single decision you make right here is going to ripple through the entire project. It all boils down to this one single question. What specific medical condition are you actually trying to treat? It sounds so basic, right? But this one answer will literally define the entire trajectory of your platform. And as you can see, the possibilities here are massive. Are you going to tackle a chronic condition like diabetes? Or maybe focus on mental health? Perhaps you're building something that works alongside an existing drug therapy. Each of these paths isn't just a different market. It's a totally different set of rules, data needs, and design challenges. And this is where the rubber meets the road. That choice, your therapeutic focus, it dictates everything. Your clinical protocols, what data you need to collect, and crucially, how you'll be regulated. If you get this foundational choice wrong, everything you build on top of it is just going to be on shaky ground. Okay, so with our clinical why firmly established, it's time to build the technical how. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of architecting the core platform. You know, a modern DTX platform isn't one single piece of software. It's more like a system of connected Lego blocks. And there are some blocks that are totally non-negotiable. You need a smooth way to get patients onboarded, a system to actually deliver the therapy, tools for tracking progress, and of course, really powerful dashboards for the clinicians. Now, this is a line that's so important, I wanted to pull it out. A DText platform cannot be an island. For a digital therapeutic to have any real-world impact, it absolutely cannot exist in its own little bubble. It has to be connected. Connected to what, you ask? Well, it has to speak the language of the entire healthcare system. That means it's got to plug into electronic health records, pull in data from things like smartwatches, and fit seamlessly into how doctors and nurses already work. It does this using standards like HL7 and FHIR, which are basically the universal translators for health data. And all that data flowing in from everywhere, that enables the real magic, personalization. See, a great DTeX platform isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It adapts to you, the individual. And this is where AI becomes a total game changer, tailoring the therapy and even predicting who might need a little extra nudge to stay on track. Okay, so we've got our clinical strategy, and we've got our technical architecture. Now it's time to build the guardrails. Let's talk about the absolutely non-negotiable world of compliance and security. A lot of DTeX platforms get this very specific regulatory label you see here, Software as a Medical Device, or SMD. What that means is that regulators, like the FDA, view the software itself as the medical device. And that comes with some very, very strict rules. Playing by SAMI rules means you have to navigate a whole alphabet soup of regulations. We're talking about getting clearance from bodies like the FDA, following data privacy laws like HIPAA here in the States or GDPR in Europe, and having super rigorous quality control systems in place from day one. And compliance is totally intertwined with having an ironclad security architecture. I mean, when you're dealing with someone's private health data, things like heavy-duty encryption, strict controls on who can see what, and constantly monitoring for threats, they aren't just nice-to-haves. They are the absolute baseline. All right, so picture this. We've built a platform that's clinically sound, technologically robust, and totally compliant. But there's one more giant question. Will anyone actually use it? And that brings us to our next critical section, designing for human engagement. This quote really just says it all. If patients don't consistently use the platform, the therapy has zero chance of working. The technology, no matter how brilliant, is completely useless without engagement. The key here is realizing you're designing for two very different users. For the patient, the whole goal is adherence, sticking with the program. So the experience has to be intuitive, it has to be motivating, but for the clinician, their goal is oversight. They need to see clear, actionable data at a glance to know how their patients are doing. And of course, behind all of this, the entire system has to be built to grow. A successful DTX platform isn't just for 100 people. It could serve tens of thousands, maybe even millions. And that means you have to be thinking about a scalable, cloud-based architecture right from the very beginning. All right, we have made it to the final section of our blueprint. The platform is designed, it's built, now it's time to launch, validate, and most importantly, evolve. Yeah, launching a DTX platform is not like flipping a switch. It's a very methodical process. You have to finish your clinical trials, you have to rigorously test how it performs and how easy it is to use, you have to pass all your regulatory checks, and only then do you deploy. And notice that last step. This isn't a one-and-done deal. It's a cycle of constant improvement. So if you take just one thing away from our entire blueprint today, let it be this. A successful DTX platform stands on four essential pillars: rock-solid clinical science, robust technology, airtight regulatory alignment, and, the one that ties it all together, deep, meaningful patient engagement. And this brings us to our final thought, a really powerful, forward-looking question. As healthcare just keeps getting more digital, more continuous, and more focused on the patient, DTX platforms are going to be right at the center of that shift. So the real question is, who's ready to build that future?